Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Listen closely. This is important. Share this one with the Muslims. If you're not Muslim, you're welcome to listen. But it's the Muslims that are going to understand this. And this is important. During Ramadan, I made the mistake of underestimating what the demons, what the shayateen can do. This is my second time doing this. I've looked at what we've heard they can do and what we've heard they cannot do. I know they can't be in two places at one time individually, but they travel so quickly, it would seem like they can. I know that they cannot see the future, but they can plan a future and try to make it come about, and they can coordinate for that. So it's good to know what they can't do, but without being one, you can't know everything that they can do and everything they cannot do. Because I did not want to wrongly ascribe any of God's exclusive abilities to these things, made the opposite mistake of underestimating them before I was a Muslim, and then after I was a new Muslim, or becoming a new Muslim. Then I learned a few more things that they could do, and that explained how they were affecting my life negatively. And then you move forward in time, and more recently I've made the same mistake. I have underestimated what they can do, and I did not adequately prepare. And our brother, Mr. Hausawi, rightly told me that the human beings who work with him to practice what we rightfully call witchcraft and magic, which is really nothing more than them using these, or actually being used by these unseen and unheard entities, can still, even during Ramadan, work with ones that are not locked up. The ones that are locked up are, generally speaking, the authorities amongst them. They got pull, they got power, they got rank. But then there are the regular run-of-the-mill ones that are not powerful. However, they're not necessarily locked up either. And this is where it gets tricky for us, because they're there. There they are. There they go. And they can still move around, and they can do what they could do before. And so human beings who work with them to get certain things done, like cast spells, can still conduct business at least almost as usual. This is going on with me. This has happened to me as well. They did this again this time during Ramadan, and what this tells me is that more than likely this is due to them working with somebody. Now, I am a nobody. I'm nobody special. I'm nobody important. I don't have 4,000 subscribers, so what is so good about me? But one thing I did do is I did explain that I'm not going to go along with the false deities, people calling themselves deities. And I stated before that if you were into that stuff, you're already going to see me as an enemy anyway, which is right, you will. Sure enough, what has happened is that some of them have seen me as an enemy. It must be. I know what things look like when this happens. This doesn't make any sense. And so consequently, yes, I am upset, frustrated, for good reasons though. But the mood swings are wild, and there are other symptoms. Thumping headaches that come even after I've eaten, after I've broken the fast after sunset. Hair is growing back abnormally quickly when I shave. Mild insomnia. This is killing me to a certain extent. I mean, this is really bothersome. And everything is irritating. As a result, I have I had to think about this, and it dawned on me that if somebody is trying to do something now during Ramadan, when the normal abilities are not at full scale and they're hindered, then what the cuss word are they going to try to do when Ramadan is over? Now, I pretty much declared someone a false goddess during Ramadan. It may not even be her. She doesn't know that I exist. But others are into this. Others, and she's into it, and others who follow her are going to be into this. And they're probably going to say, okay, well, let me just add these names to the list, and mine is probably one of them. Now, these unseen things would not easily be able to dox me. They could help a human being do it, but they couldn't dox him by themselves, as far as I know. But what I can tell you is that I can tell you that they can afflict people, and they do. Now, I tell you this for two reasons. Number one, if all of a sudden I stop recording and I don't tell you that I'm busy, and I don't write something down to state that I'm busy, then the reason is going to be because something happened to me. And it could be that they had something to do with it, because these things can cause that. They've done it before. They can affect people's health, and they can nudge death. It probably was the case with Mr. Samuels, that not exclusively to the agency of these things, but with an extra nudge from them, since he had already survived cancer and he was drinking Red Bull and he was exhausting himself. An extra nudge from them, he keels over. And this can't happen without the permission of God. Really, death won't happen before it's time. I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying that they still have their role to play in it. Just like human beings do. And so that could very well be the case. The symptoms, if they get worse after Ramadan, would then let me know that this is coming down the pike. The other reason, the first reason I'm telling you this is, it means that, see, if they continue to affect anything in my life, I'm going to fight them to kill them. There are ways that you retaliate against them, or you seek to protect yourself from them. And I'm going to do more than just try to protect myself and my wife and my loved ones. I'm going to try to kill these things that are involved. I only give them two choices. They run or they burn. I don't give them any other option. And they fight nasty and dirty. And they're not lazy. They have limited abilities, but the abilities that they do have, they always utilize. They capitalize on. The other reason I'm telling you this is because if I am a nobody with not even 4,000 subscribers in my audience, and some of them are willing to do stuff like this to me because what I'm saying can't just be a coincidence, then what the hell you think they're going to do to you if you get more, if your message gets more traction? King of Willow Creek, they'll do this to you as best they can. Based Muslim, they will do this to you as best they can. They mean it. That's what they want. That's what they're shooting for. Who else? The features. They'll come for you. Abul Bara Muhammad Al-Amriki, they'll come for you too. Now, there is something that takes away from your message. I won't go into that. But if you don't believe me and you identify what that thing is and you begin to remove it, they will come for you. They may do it already. They may have already tried. But they will come for you. And understand, we already have had a confession. And I think it was it was El Guapo that of the channel Beautiful Lies that talked about this. How some of these women are sitting up and saying they're casting these spells. And I said before, they will not cast spells. Matter of fact, maybe it was my response to that brought about some of this. They will not cast spells continuously again and again and again if they're not seeing results. Men are leaving the church in numbers because the men are tired of being told to be stepdads without being dads, and to be stepdads to snot-nosed kids of lesser men and their baby mamas who wouldn't give us a shot unless they had their baby daddy's babies in the first place. In other words, they pegged us to be stepdads and not dads. And they did it on purpose, intentionally. That's number one. Number two, women are leaving the church in large numbers because they are being told that they can't keep asking God for these things. And notice that it is at a time when the men state they're leaving the churches for these reasons that the women start leaving the churches too, to go into witchcraft, so that instead of blaspheming and asking God to reward their sins, they can turn around and ask the devil to reward their sins. Now, I don't know everything that it takes to be initiated into any of these orders of witchcraft. The different orders, there are different orders, and so they have their own initiations. But what we do know is that all initiations involve something that dehumanizes and debases the initiate. And that's the stage after which they can get results. Next, they're doing it. They're going into this. They're not going to continue doing this if they don't hear or see results. Sometimes they can audibly hear answers. Other times they just see the answers. But without seeing results they won't continue doing this. So they're not doing this just sitting up and praying. And that's it. And then just having faith that it went through. They don't say to each other, girl, you never know what happened with your prayers. They don't do that. They sit up and they say, if I don't see this guy suffer and hear about it, I'm not going to keep doing this. Unless something forces them to keep on doing it with no answers. That's a different story. I'm not aware of that. Do you understand where I'm going with this? This is not a joke, folks. They are not playing. I want you all to know that if nobody with less than 4,000 subscribers can get this kind of attention from someone, if you preach, they'll come for you too. And it is better, and that's why I say for the Muslims to share this with each other. It is time to go ahead and start learning how to ask properly for the Lord's protection. What verses to recite, what supplications to recite. I'm still in the process of learning this myself. Because if this message takes traction and you participate in the spread of it, they'll come after you too. You'll have to start being careful about things that are important all of a sudden missing from their locations. Important technology all of a sudden not working anymore. You'll have to be careful about things like that. It won't be a coincidence that a phone or a computer just crashes when you need it for something important. There won't be a coincidence. And you'll know that something's odd because it'll be several things like this that happen back to back to back or next to each other. That's when you'll know. Starts to follow a pattern, you'll know then. No, it's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. It's when you'll understand it. You were dealing with, when I told you they hated you, I meant that. It's a war. I wish it wasn't. But for them, this war even goes into the spiritual. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it does. The legal and the spiritual, because that's where they've got the advantages. I hope that this helps. And I wish I didn't have to discuss something like this. But while it's still Ramadan, I think you all should share this message before it ends. Thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me until the wings and the wheels fall off. God's justice is forever.